Hello, everyone. I'm Dan Kleffler in New York. A blood moon on the rise. The first total lunar eclipse for North America in more than 2 years will reveal itself early Tuesday morning, bringing with it a haunting display that some say might actually be bringing with some evil omens. So for more on the site and the superstitions behind it, I want to bring in scientist from NASA, Dr. Michelle Thaler at the Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland. Dr. Thaler, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it.
Oh, hey, great to be here. Thank you.
So some folks are calling tonight's event a blood moon. Doomsdayers calling it an evil omen. What exactly is happening?
Well, I love total lunar eclipses. I think they're absolutely beautiful. What's going to happen tonight is that the moon is going to line up in just the right angle to pass through the shadow of the Earth. And that's going to block the sun's light from reaching the moon. And that means we'll actually see the Earth's shadow creep across the full moon. Now, at the deepest part of the eclipse, the moon does actually look red. It really does. But we know what causes this. This is happening because the sunlight that's reaching the moon is just the sunlight bending through the Earth's atmosphere. And the same reason that a sunset is red, the Earth's atmosphere scatters away blue light but lets red light through. So all of the sunrises and sunsets around the Earth, that red light is reaching the moon and bouncing off it. And I think this is absolutely beautiful.
So how often does something like this happen?
Well, we haven't, as you mentioned, we haven't had a total lunar eclipse visible from North America for a few years now. Now, there have been others that are visible in other parts of the world. So this is really wonderfully fortunate for us. It's viewable all the way across North America. And if for some reason you miss it tonight, there's also another one coming up on October 8th.
Okay, all right. So we'll mark our calendars just in case we have something to do tonight. But if, in fact, we can, though, this is part of a series called a tetrad. What is that?
Yes, well, right. So what happens with a lunar eclipse is the angle has to be just right. You see, the sun is actually projecting the shadow of the Earth, and the moon orbits the Earth in a bit of an inclined angle. And sometimes it misses that shadow, and sometimes it lines up just right. So eclipses tend to come in seasons. We tend to get more than one at a time. And in this case, North America is especially lucky because we're in for 4 within the next 18 months.
Pretty good. Well, that's after having a bit of a dry spell. It's nice to finally get a little action up there. So what parts of the country then, or North America, will we be able to best viewing?
The wonderful thing is that this is all the way across North America. So for those of you on the East Coast tonight, the eclipse will actually start about 2 o'clock in the morning. And if you want to see that beautiful red moon, it'll be at its reddest about 3:45 a.m. So I'll probably end up setting my alarm clock for about 3 in the morning, get a cup of coffee. And then by 5:30 in the morning, it'll be back to a full moon again. Everything will look back to normal.
So here's kind of the fun, maybe the less scientific angle of all of this, is that these lunar eclipses oftentimes have been tied to calamitous events, the end of the world, a lot of these kinds of doomsday predictions. Why is that? What is our fascination with these kinds of cosmic occurrences?
Well, you know, I think thousands of years ago, people thought of space as being very unchanging and very eternal. And so when something was different, you know, it does seem kind of frightening. You know, either that the sun goes away during a solar eclipse or the moon turns red during a lunar eclipse. But hopefully for several thousand years now, we haven't really been bothered by this. We do understand what's going on. And in fact, the ancient Greeks 2,300 years ago used lunar eclipses to calculate the correct size and distribution of our solar system. They actually proved the sun was in the middle of the solar system that long ago just by looking at lunar eclipses. So they've been wonderful scientific resources as well.
So we're going to be able to get some great shots, and maybe for some kids, might be a good excuse to stay up late, or at least, you know, set the alarm, as you and the rest of us will be doing as well. But scientifically, though, what are we still learning about these lunar eclipses when they do occur?
Well, to us these days, there's not so much new science in a lunar eclipse, but it's a chance, I think, to really appreciate the beauty of the cosmos and to think about the moon. We have a satellite called the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter that is returning gorgeous images of the moon all the time. And so the scale of the features on the moon really impressed me. This is the crater Tycho. And in the middle of Tycho, there's a mountain. And if you notice, there's sort of a lit up boulder at the very top of that mountain. The sun's lighting it up. That boulder is as big as a huge football stadium. So the scale of the mountains, the scale of the landscape, every time we take these images as scientists, we ask ourselves, how did it become that way? How did the moon form? How did it evolve over time? So there's so much more to discover about the moon. LRO is recording that there's more water, more ice in the soil than we had expected. So there's a lot more left to learn.
So, and lastly, I understand we can also maybe pick up some lessons about Mars, correct, from these lunar eclipses?
Well, there's so much to learn about Mars that we're actually doing in many different ways at NASA. We have the Mars rovers. We've just launched MAVEN, which is a mission to actually study the atmosphere of Mars and how that's changed over time. A lunar eclipse doesn't really give us a chance to study Mars, but I will say Mars is very bright because it's very close to the Earth right now. So when the moon goes dark, Mars, I think, will look all the more brighter to us in the sky tonight. A beautiful chance to maybe do a little bit of astrophotography or look at Mars through a telescope.
Something definitely to look forward to. Set the alarm very early. Dr. Michelle Thaler at the Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland. Go get a nap so you can have a very early and fun viewing of that. Of course, the rest of us will be joining in as well. Thanks. Appreciate that. And of course, you can keep up with this story in real time by downloading the ABC News app, starring this story for exclusive updates on the go, and look